But remember, with great power comes great responsibility. All that trash that shark leaves behind. Hold on to it, please, until the end of the tour ride. You can throw it away in the trash can located on both your trolley cars here today. I just want to make sure that we keep the trolleys nice and tidy and don't leave Christmas presents on the floor for your drivers to pick up. They don't like those types of gifts, guys, trust me. So please hold on to them. And if you have any competitor candies, such as the ones with M's we don't like to speak of, they're now confiscated. Just place them in my hand, don't worry. I'll take them to the research department. Next thing, electronic devices, silencer, vibrate please. That's all that I ask, so that your awesome ringtone doesn't start a trolley dance party on board. You'll be allowed to take pictures and video on board our vehicles. Just make sure your flash is on a low setting so you don't blind the conductors who are giving you the tour here today. Now, next thing, guys, for both trolleys here, the 1245 and 1250, we are sold out. So I need you folks to follow the boarding procedure exactly to the letter, filling in every single seat on board, starting off at the very front, working your way to the back, to every seat. Parents, if you have multiple children, you can fit 3 to a seat. It can be done, with the exception of all 2 and under. They do have to be on a lap for their safety for the full duration of the tour ride here today. And children with small parents, also on your lap. Full duration of the tour ride. No hands, ifs, or buts while your parent is riding. I mean, you wouldn't want them falling in the aisle and completely embarrassing you, right? She's not even paying attention. If so, have fun, parents. Now, for both my trolleys here today, I have 2 completely different tours. Everybody on 1245, you're on the Holly Jolly Trolley. Be prepared. There will be some Christmas stories, Christmas jokes, and Christmas carols. So I hope you guys love to sing. And don't worry, not expecting you guys to sing like Mariah Carey in that one Christmas song we don't like. Just sing nice and happy, all right, guys? That's all that I ask. For everybody on the 1250 trolley, you have Conductor Dirk, D-I-R-K, teaching you the history and story of Milton Hershey. He's a phenomenal man. Please do give him your undivided attention. But the main thing for both our trolley tours here today is they are live performances. So please keep all the personal conversations to a low minimum so everyone can hear the tour and enjoy it. All right, again, announcement. This is the 1245 line closest to me. 1250, you're on that side closest to the tree. All right, everybody, last but not least, trolley tickets on out with times and dates visible on all your tickets. Make sure your times are visible on all of them. 1245, I will be getting you guys on board. Conductor Dirk is already on the trolley car. I'll let him know that you guys are ready for 1250. All right, 1245, I gotta get these folks on board first, so hang tight.
All right.
For safety, I got to get the handicapped people on board first, so hang tight.
Right? And kids, we don't care how many times you take the tour. No, you can go back and do it over and over again, okay, with your parents' permission. They will give you candy every single time. And it did not take long for the kids that live here in town to figure that out. They ride their bikes over, come get candy anytime they want. Now, Chocolate World was built to provide the free tour. You used to be able to take a tour of the old factory downtown, but eventually we got 1 million people a year wanting to take that tour, and then the Food and Drug Administration got involved. And they said, well, you can't have 1 million people walking through a food processing plant. So we built Chocolate World. Now, back then, it was just the tour, show you how chocolate was made in the old factory, in a little gift shop. But they kept adding on to it, adding on to it. Today, it's the world's largest corporate visitor center. And we now have 5 other Chocolate Worlds around the world. Times Square has a Chocolate World. Niagara Falls on the Canada side has a Chocolate World. Las Vegas, Nevada has one. Even Singapore and Shanghai now have Chocolate Worlds. And I've been to the one in Singapore several times when on business trips before I retired, and I can't figure out how they keep the chocolate from melting there. Yeah, but they're mostly retail centers. They're much smaller than this. But this is not the only entertainment opportunity we have in town. Obviously, you got the entrance to Hershey Park just down the sidewalk, and it's open this weekend. Hershey Park Stadium, football stadium, still used by local high school teams. We have statewide playoffs, and that's our summer concert venue. Big concerts here all summer long. We had some big shows here all this past summer. Lady Gaga was here late in the summer. Oh, hi there. This is the 1250 tour?
Yes.
Yeah,
number
okay.
2, but somehow it's
Oh, yeah, you're on the right? Okay, just have to double check. Oh, good to go. Okay, welcome. There's some seats back there. Yeah. Right there is good, yeah.
Should have 40 guys.
That's 40. We just got 40, yeah.
All right.
I'll finish telling what happened here last summer. 2 weeks before Lady Gaga, we had a concert one night. All those concerts, usually about 30, 40,000 people show up. But on one night alone, we had Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Poison, and Joan Jett all on the same night. And I lived 4 miles east of here, and I could hear the concert at my house. The Giant Center was that big dome building you passed on the way in. Home of our Hershey Bears hockey team. They've been a member of the American Hockey League for 84 years now. They're the developmental team of the Washington Capitals of the NHL. And that's our indoor concert venue. Always something going on in there. So, put my hat on, make it official. Okay, my name is Dirk. I'm your conductor today. I'm the guy that's going to point out all the landmarks along the way. But more importantly, folks, I honestly have the privilege of telling you the story of one of the most remarkable men in American history, Milton S. Hershey. But the guy that's actually taking us on the tour is our motorman, Adrian. So everybody say hi to Adrian.
Hi, Adrian.
This trolley, if you will. Yeah, it's a replica, but it is a replica of the kind of trolleys that used to service downtown Hershey and the surrounding countryside back in the early 1900s. And in those days, we did have over 35 miles of trolley track. The track's all gone. Adrian has to drive this thing, and he's an excellent driver, but not everybody else on the road is. So please stay seated while the trolley's running. We don't want any of our guests to go rolling in the aisle. Unless, of course, you think my jokes are that good, but I'll warn you, the jokes are pretty bad. Hershey. Town itself's relatively small, but it's a big destination. Chocolate World on a busy day can easily have 30, maybe 40,000 visitors in one day. But that's nothing compared to what happens in October when we have the annual Antique Auto Show and over 200,000 visitors show up for that. So where does Milton Hershey's story start? Small farmhouse, south side of town. We'll see it later. He was born there September 13th, 1857. His family ancestry was a really long line of Swiss German Mennonite farmers. But don't get the Mennonites mixed up with the Amish. We had a lot of both in the area. The Mennonites were more open to embracing modern day conveniences. His mother's name was Veronica Buckwalter Snavely Hershey. Long name, everybody just called her Fanny. Nobody knows why anymore. So I like to tell people I don't know the story behind that. First of the bad jokes. Father's name was Henry Hershey. He had a sister named Serena, but she died when she was about 4 years old of what we think was scarlet fever. Fanny had a really strong work ethic. Milton inherited that. But he also got some traits from his father. He was a dreamer, an idea guy that liked to invent things. Some of his ideas were pretty good, but not a single one of them ever made any money at all for the family. Plus, he liked to travel a lot. He'd be away from home for long periods of time, and it didn't work out well for the family farm. Sold it when Milton was very young, and it threw his childhood into a tremendous amount of chaos. He was known to have attended at least 7 different schools by the time he turned 14. Never got more than a 4th or a 5th grade formal education. But when he was 15, his mother got him an apprenticeship at a candy maker in Lancaster, and he loved the job, finished it when he was 19, and decided to start his own candy business in Philadelphia. Because the year was 1876, the 100th anniversary of the birth of the country. And for that first year, while the centennial was going on, business was great. But when the party was over and everybody had gone home, he learned 3 things real quick. Business slowed down, times got really tough, and the price of sugar was so high it gobbled up all of his profits. And after 6 years of hard work, he went bankrupt. His father contacted him. Henry was out in Colorado, and he said, Milton, come on out to Colorado. Everybody's getting rich. We worked with his father in the mining industry for a while, but that didn't pan out. So, somebody caught that. I heard a chuckle. Yeah. Went to work for another candy maker in Denver. Learned a secret there that played out real important later. The guy he was working for was making caramels that tasted better than anybody else's, and the secret was in his recipe. He was using fresh milk. Nobody else was doing it at the time, so Milton took it to mind. He saved up enough money to start a new business in Chicago. But he learned right away Chicago had the same problems Philly had, especially with the price of sugar, and he almost ran out of money there. But before he did, he moved down to New Orleans, hoping the price of sugar would be cheaper where they grow sugar cane. But it didn't work out that way down there either. So he rethought his business plan and he moved to New York City, hoping if he could make it there, he could make it anywhere, right? Well, New York had the same problems Philly had, or the rest of the country. And after 2 years of hard work there, he went bankrupt for a second time. Took the only money he had left, used it all, bought a one-way ticket on the train back home to Lancaster. When he got off the train, he didn't have a penny in his pocket. Now, all his relatives had loaned him money so far, forget it. They'd all written him off as a lost cause. He's 29 years old, failed 4 times already, doesn't have anything to show for it. But one relative still believed in him, his Aunt Mattie. Mattie was Fanny's sister. She always liked Milton. And when he said he wanted to start another business right there in Lancaster, she decided to help him. And she did it the only way she could. She mortgaged her house, gave him all the money. Well, that's a terrible idea. Pretty soon it looked like one too. He started the Lancaster Caramel Company. But it didn't take long for him to realize he had the same problems there he had every place else, and the bank started to threaten to foreclose on Aunt Mattie's house. Right about then, a traveling candy merchant from England showed up. Milton introduced him to his caramels, and wow, he liked them. He liked them so much he wanted to place an enormous bulk order and ship everything back to England. Milton realized if he could fill the order, he could save Aunt Mattie's house. But he had a problem. He didn't have the equipment, not even the manpower to fill such an enormous order. So he did the only thing he could do. He walked down to the Lancaster National Bank hoping to get a loan. On the way in, he was greeted by a junior loan officer by the name of Frank Brenneman. Frank was fully aware of the situation at Aunt Mattie's house. But when Milton told him he had an opportunity, he could pay everything off. Frank was intrigued. So he walked down to the caramel factory to check it out, and when he went in, he saw Aunt Mattie, and there was Fanny Hershey, and they were hand-wrapping caramels alone in a dirt floor warehouse. He shook his head the whole way back to the bank, knowing full well nobody in his bank would ever want to loan Milton Hershey any more money. But there was something he really liked about him. He wrote him a loan. And to make sure that loan would go through his senior management, Frank co-signed it himself. He put his own name and reputation on the line. Milton took the money, bought a bunch of equipment, hired a staff. Together they made the caramels, graded them up, put them on a ship bound for England. But it was the early 1880s, and it took a long time to get across the North Atlantic in those days. He still had one more big problem. He wasn't going to get paid unless all those caramels arrived there in good condition. So there he was. I mean, the wolf's at Aunt Mattie's door, and he's waiting for a letter to come back from England, because his entire future, not to mention Aunt Mattie's house, hinged upon what was going to be in that letter. And I'm going to leave you hanging in suspense for a little bit. I'll promise I'll get back to the story, but I'd like to point out things like Hershey Park Campground. Nice place to park an RV or a camper. You can paddle around Swat Tower Creek, see some nice wildlife. They got some cabins in the woods you can rent, but I wouldn't call that camping. They've got air conditioning, color TVs, microwave ovens, hot showers, warm beds, little kitchenettes. Look at all the smiling faces. Bunch of happy campers on board here. They even have room service. Oh yeah. It's very simple. All you got to do,
Hershey Park Drive.
call Pizza Hut. Yeah, they're right there on the other side of that railroad bridge. Now up here to your left is the Penn State Hershey Rehabilitation Center, an extension to the Milton S. Hershey Medical Center we'll see later. People come here to recover from surgeries and injuries, things like that. So why would I be talking about a medical facility on a chocolate tour? Well, here in Hershey, we like to tell people that's the best place in the country to come for the treatment of chocoholics. Anybody need dropped off? Come by here nobody wants to be cured of that, right? Now, red light. Why is that taking so long? You know, red lights is probably the only time I don't talk in this entire tour. So if you have any questions, that's the best time to put your hand up if we get stuck someplace. The rest of the time, I'm talking all the time. Yeah. If I don't know the answer to your questions, I'll try to make up something that sounds plausible. Yeah. Well, I have to get out and press a button, Avery. Give me a chance to get a drink anyhow. I'd ask if anybody came from really far away, but you already said Venezuela, so I don't know. We get people from all over the world. Yeah. Miami. Symbolizes the eternal love the Hershey's have for the students, and students for them and each other. And Oh, it's become a very popular place for wedding photos, prom pictures. We often see professional photographers set up here, especially in the spring when all the flowers are out. At one time, we had over 90 farms in the area. Kids used to live on a lot of them. The barn to your right, well, that belonged to one of those farms, but they remodeled it and made it the school's new high-tech security center. Very dedicated security staff here. Off to your right down the road, you see a white fence. That's the first of several farms that the kids want to get involved in the agricultural programs. They can raise sheep, goats, rabbits, chickens, even work with horses and cattle, and later on, another week or two, take them off to the farm show and try to win some ribbons for them. They can raise crops over here in the truck farm, orchards, vineyards, and down in the big greenhouses where the ag center is. That's where they have the farmers market. They sell produce to the public. I like to buy the ice cream the kids make. It's really good. Now this building on your right is called Kinderhaus. It was the first permanent student home. Now it's the school's historical archives. And here's something kind of interesting. Kids are in student homes until they're in 12th grade. But when they're seniors, they move into these transitional living apartments on your right. There's about 4 kids in each apartment. They're given a budget. Well, then they got to go to town and buy their own groceries, wake themselves up, cook their own meals, do their own laundry, get themselves to school on time. And Milton knew that was one of the finest freshwater streams on the entire East Coast. And he knew it for a very good reason. Because it comes out of the ground less than a mile upstream, very close to the homestead. And as a child, he used to play at those big springs. So he knew they flowed very strong, even in the worst droughts in this area. So he got all the high quality fresh water he needed for his factory, instead of that questionable city water back in those days. Now coming up here on your left, you're going to start to see a very large brick building and 2 smokestacks. We'll get a better view of them when we get further away, when we're back out on Chocolate Avenue. That produced all the steam and some of the electricity for the old factory. Now, all the way back in 1724, this part of the country was still the frontier. The Derry Presbyterian Church was established in the valley that year, and 5 years later they named the township after it. The church is on your left, but just to the left of the church, behind the pine trees, you'll get anybody want to eat geese? They never leave. The creek never freezes. They got no excuse to leave, and it adds a whole new meaning to the word birdie on this golf course. Yeah. Now, behind the pine trees, there's a log cabin inside a glass house. That's the church's first session house, built in 1732. 1732 is the same year George Washington was born. That's considered to be one of the oldest unremodeled structures in the country, and in 1929, to help preserve it, Milton paid to put it under glass. That's holding up really well now. By 1905, the factory was already built and people were living in town. They're making chocolate, but Milton and Kitty, no, they were still living in the old farmhouse, long before it looks anything like it does today. It was time for him to build a nice place for himself and his wife. Now, he could have done, just like lots of those other multi-millionaire industrialists did back in those days, guys that he was on the same level with. People like Carnegie, Mellon, Rockefeller, Vanderbilt. And when you had that kind of money in those days, it was very fashionable to build some enormous multi-million-dollar mansion and have lots of servants waiting on you hand and foot. But Milton's personality wasn't like that. Instead, he chose his high-rise of ground across from his factory, and he built this relatively small mansion compared to the rest of those millionaires.
Wow.
And when this home was
This is
completed,
their
it cost him a grand total of only $53,833. Personally, I think it really pays to own your own stone quarry. You can almost picture him waking up in the morning, having breakfast with Kitty, and strolling across the lawn to his factory. But the Hersheys, they were the only ones that ever called this place home. Because in 1915, right after Kitty died, he moved out of the house. Didn't return to live here until the 1930s. And even then, chose to live a simple life in a small 2-room apartment up on the 2nd floor. He allowed the first floor to be used as the clubhouse for the country club for a lot of years. They even added on to the back of the building. Today, the entire building serves as the office space for the Hershey Trust Company. That's the organization that's responsible for running the school. Now, they did have a taste in the finer things in life. The museums in town still has some of the fancy furnishings they used to own. And the building itself, it still has nice touches inside and out, like stained glass windows, beautifully carved marble objects on the front steps and the front porch. But he didn't commission some famous artist to go carve them for him. Instead, he just ordered them out of the old Sears and Roebuck catalog. You got a question. You kept putting your hand up. You remember what it was?